shows. Hi, this is Jenny Hudson bringing you the Author Connection, the voice of independent authors. And today I have a special treat. I have two authors, Russ Bubas, who's written Joy Street, and I have David Harris Lang, who has written The Witch of Wen Chai. And the reason that I have these authors brought together at one time is that Russ is actually a private detective in real life. And David Harris Lang has written a book about a private detective, and that his book takes place in Asia and Russ's book takes place in Boston, but they still have a lot of things to talk about. So I am going to turn this over to them and let them talk about this, and I think you'll be real interested in hearing what they have to say. So welcome, guys. And Russ, I'm going to turn it over to you first.
David, I love your book because I love Hong Kong. And I haven't been all over Asia like you have, obviously, but it reads like a fantastic travelogue as well as exciting. I was in Hong Kong twice when I was an intelligence officer back in the early 70s, and they wouldn't let me go to Macau at that time because they were body snatching out of Macau, and I had a top secret clearance, and they didn't want me to get in trouble. But I'd get in trouble anyway, my own personal way. And then my wife was over there. She worked for State Street, and she was assigned to Hong Kong for several months, and she had an apartment at the mid levels. So I went over and spent a lot of time there, and got over to Macau. I think Hong Kong is probably one of the, if not the most exciting city in the world.
I agree with you, Russ. I just love it here. Before I lived in Hong Kong, I lived in Shenzhen in China for 7 years. And wow, do I love Hong Kong. So many good restaurants. Besides the beautiful city, they've got great hiking opportunities. Hong Kong is fantastic.
Yeah, I get over to the beach over Repulse Bay, and I just love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I live in Discovery Bay.
Oh, do you? Good for you.
Yeah, that is.
That's fantastic. Well, I loved your book. I found it very exciting, very interesting, by the way. It's kind of unusual when people are eating other people. I don't want to give anything away. Everybody's going to love this book because not only is it exciting, I thought, but it read like a travel log. All these interesting things on the Far East. It's just wonderful.
Great, thank you, thank you. I think in reading your book, I think you and I sort of pace our stories the same. I think we both create a very fast pace of action, 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 things happening. Right? I think there's a similarity in our writing.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, Jenny chides me once in a while. She wants me to develop some of my female characters a little more deeper because I just gloss over.
I can say, Russ, it was written from a man's point of view. Your writing definitely, in fact, meeting you on Skype here, it's a very different picture of you than I had in my mind from reading your book. I pictured you seem like a really, really nice guy when I meet you in person. But by reading your book, I thought you'd be kind of gruff and sexist and.
Well, I think I am that too.
Yeah, you have to get to know him a little bit better, David.
I get accused of being that way sometimes, but
Yeah.
I do a lot of interrogations and things like that. So I try to put on a little different persona,
Other
or
side.
maybe what you expected. Yeah.
The other side. But I love food, so I write about food. I think you must love alcohol because there's a lot of drinking in your books.
Well, I'm a fond of excellent bars. That's true.
Actually, David, you had quite a few bars in your book too. I mean, you're no slouch there.
I do love alcohol also, and the next time you're in Hong Kong, Russ, we will go out and we'll get some single malt.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I'd love to do that. Yeah.
So guys, what about the detective part? David, do you have any questions about how a detective thinks, or What do you think?
I can write about architecture authoritatively because I'm an architect. I'm not because I'm a law-abiding citizen, I really haven't run into many detectives or policemen or whatever. And of course, my hero is a policeman. So I'm kind of going from, just what I can guess and what I know how a policeman operates, especially Hong Kong. So my guy is a Hong Kong policeman. As much internet research as I can do, did I capture it accurately or as a policeman?
No, you truly did. As a matter of fact, I was surprised. I was with Jenny earlier this week at a function, and I asked her if you were a retired police officer or private, and she said you're an architect, and I was really surprised because I thought you really nailed the persona
That's
of
great.
the police detectives.
That's great. And I get one of the questions I want to ask you, and it gets into how you write. And you know, when I write, I have no idea where the story's going. I have no idea where the chapter is going. I just sit down and it kind of comes to me. And I believe that out there's some authors that have an outline. They start, it's all organized, and they know what the end is going to be and whatever. So, how do you write, Russ?
Well, I tried to do the outline, and like you, I felt that didn't work. In fact, I start writing and then I let it roll, and then it kind of comes to me and it develops as I get going. So I've stopped doing the outline. I try to do that, put together an old outline, so I would follow it along, and I have sort of it in my mind, probably the way you do. But when I start writing, it sort of starts flowing, and it kind of gets clearer as I keep going.
Exactly. I mean, I have kind of a theory that you connect. This is some sort of muse. Now, my first book, The Journal of Rabbi Levi Wang, takes place in 1937 when my father and grandfather were living in China at the time, in Tianjin. They were fur traders. 1937, when the Japanese came in, they had to get out or go to an internment camp. And when I wrote that book and I just let it flow, as you were saying, I felt that I was just being a host, so to speak, to my father and grandfather who were really writing it. And I was trying to capture that time. And when you say, okay, I captured what it's like to be a policeman, I've never been in jail or arrested or anything. I have no idea. I really don't know any policemen other than now I know you. I think, I can connect to sort of something that lets me get into that persona. It's not definable. For example, right now I'm writing a sequel to The Witch of Wanchai.
Mm-hmm.
I sat down and okay, I've got Ian, I've got Angela, I've got Hong Kong, I've got whatever. I started to write at the computer, and all of a sudden I'm writing about computer gamers, 17-year-old computer gamers in Anaheim, California. Where did that come from? I have no idea.
Uh-huh.
So it's just I connect, and I think I'm astute enough to just let it flow. I think you are too, probably.
I was just going to ask if you guys have read any of Michael Palmer's books. He wrote medical thrillers. He passed away a couple years ago. He was actually a physician who started writing thrillers, and he was in the Boston area, and he's had a bunch of New York Times bestsellers. You should pick up some of his books. He used to outline everything. I mean, seriously, he would write an outline and he would do chapters very, very methodically, and he was getting bestsellers. I mean, great writer. Check it out. But very, very different from you guys.
I'm sure that there's different styles that different people work in different ways. Now, I'm discovering with this sequel I'm writing right now, I'm trying to understand the process a little bit more. So I've just let it flow. I've gone through the whole thing. One of my books is typically 100,000 words. So I got to 89,600. Mm-hmm. And then I said, okay, now I kind of know where this is going, whatever. Oh, I need to write in some red herrings, whatever. So I went back to word one, and I'm rewriting the whole thing right now. So now, in a sense, my first draft, which is almost to the end, is almost like my outline because now I'm just polishing,
right.
adding things back and forth. So now, after, and it's been about a year of writing this thing, now I know where I'm going with it.
Yeah. Well, we always say there's not writing, there's rewriting. So you get it down and then you go through it. And I find, Dave, that as the characters show up in the books, and they become more and more alive to me, it heads me in the right direction. So the book I wrote before Joy Street was a book of memoirs, and there were cases that I did. There were 13 stories in there, little memoirs kind of a thing, and I just kind of I sat down and would sit and I think about it. Oh yeah, I did this and it just they sort of came alive to me. After I remembered them. So
it wasn't fiction; it was nonfiction.
It's actually a bunch of memoirs. It's called Clowns and Capers.
So,
and
Russ, this is a great time. I have a question to ask you about that. These are hysterical stories. I mean, they're real, and they're all true, I think. But the one where the guy falls through the ceiling at the beginning, which is one of my favorite stories of you.
Well,
is that true? Was that you? Did that happen?
Yeah, no, I didn't fall through the ceiling. That was my boss at the time.
Oh, that's right. His boss fell through the ceiling. That's right.
Yeah, that's when I was just getting started. I was in New York. I was going to NYU, and I needed money desperately. So I got a job with a private eye in New York, and he was I had so much fun. In fact, I had no idea what I was going to do with my life, but I had so much fun doing it. I said, "Oh hell, I'm going to stick with this because this is great fun," and it has been fun because my agency I started back in '81, so most of the people working for me weren't even born then, but every day is fun because it's so interesting. Like I can tell, David, that you like people, and you're pretty insightful into people, and that's what my job is. It's really a people job in a lot of ways.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Next case you got, I'll join you. We'll do it together.
That sounds like a great idea. We'll sit down over a couple of beers in our favorite bars, and we'll just develop something.
Sounds good.
So, David, do you think that part of you ever wanted to be a private eye? Do you think that there's a little piece of you,
I don't know. I'm a martial artist. I've been in the martial arts all my life. And, but I would think there's a lot of boring parts. Like, I would love the parts where you grab the bad guy and kick the shit out of him. But it'd be like the stakeout, sitting there, eating the greasy hamburgers. That was
hours and hours and hours. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too crazy about that part.
Yeah. So Russ, what do you do on a stakeout to keep yourself from going nuts?
Well, you try to stay awake first of all, and then you try to hunch down so people don't pick you up. One time I was in a spot where if someone would see me in a car, they would probably call the cops. So what I did is I got in the back seat of my car and I put a refrigerator box over me, so a little slit so I could look through it. So when you looked in the car, all you saw, because you couldn't see, it came down to my legs. All I could see is this big box sitting in the back of the seat of the car. Didn't know I was in it, and I got away with that for hours. But it's no fun sitting in a refrigerator box for a couple hours. Believe me.
That's hilarious.
One of the questions that I wanted to talk to you about there, Russ, I want to talk to you about sex.
Mm-hmm.
And your books are a little sexier than mine in terms of describing sex. And starting out first with the Journal of Rabbi Levi Wang, I felt really uncomfortable. The fight scenes are great. Get into those, I can really accurately portray the action. But when it comes down to the sex and the romance, I'm in romance a little bit, but, because I always think, I have 3 daughters, and I always think, God, my daughters are going to be reading this,
Yeah, I have 2 daughters, the same thing.
That's why people have pen names, I think.
Well, I think a nice sexy scene is important because it's part of life, but I have trouble writing that sexy scene and not make it sleazy. And I kind of worry through it, and I try to make it, exciting and sexy without it being cheap and tawdry. And I don't know if I've succeeded at that, but
well, like Woody Allen says, is sex dirty? And only if you're doing it right. But yeah, I mean, I was like, so when I was reading your book, author to author, I'm sitting there going, I wouldn't write that because if my daughter read that, I'd feel uncomfortable. Did you see what Dad wrote? It's like,
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
but I'm
Yeah,
getting
that's
I'm
an
getting
issue.
better at it. I have a little more sex in my sequel here now coming up. There was a little more in The Witch of Wan Chai, and
Yeah.
I think in the original one, the Journal of Rabbi Levi Wang, I just had them disappear into a cave and then come out in the morning. It was that was it.
Well, in
So,
my novel, the protagonist has a girlfriend, and this is on Jenny's advice, and she liked the character. She wanted me to enlarge her and make her more real. So I'm writing a sequel to it called Ride the Stone Pony. And if you've ever been in the eastern part of the United States, the Jersey Shore, where Bruce Springsteen got started, there's a famous rock bar down in Asbury Park called the Stone Pony.
Oh,
And so my detective goes to Boston to the Jersey Shore to find this runaway kid who ended up involved in drugs. I won't get, I don't even know the whole plot right at this point because as I said, I'm kind of writing as I go along. But I'm trying to make the the girlfriend, if you will, a lot more realistic and have a bigger role in it. And this is from Jenny's advice, and I like the way it's going, quite honestly, because it kind of it's a good yin and yang kind of a thing with my private eye. He's got this alter ego, and she's sort of his moral compass. She kind of sets him down
was
and
that
gives
that
him some
same
advice.
like Danny Hughes guy, or is
Yeah,
he the same?
exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm making her pretty lusty,
Ah.
Well, she's a
Well,
hot-blooded Mediterranean type.
yeah, yeah. When I talk to like people that have read my book, The Witch of Wan Chai, one of their favorite characters is actually Angela Chung, who's like the tough detective
Right.
lady. Grew up in the triads in the streets of East Kowloon.
Hmm.
David, I'd love to see her be tougher, actually. And if you're a martial
Oh,
arts aficionado, I'd love to see her kick the crap out of somebody, with some great martial arts stuff. I used to do karate, and I mean, for me, that would be cool, to see a
great,
woman be strong and do that, very, very gratifying.
great.
Which, I mean, besides sex scenes, that would might be a fun way to play up her strength.
Yeah, Angela's in it, although she has that boyfriend. He's
Yeah,
reappeared, that
with the knife,
Jenny's friend, Kotaro. Yeah.
the sword, yes.
Yeah, and yeah, and I introduced in this the new one that I'm writing. I introduced another very tough girl, although she's a bad guy, a bad girl.
A bad girl,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, her name is Saffron Lamb,
Great
and,
name.
and yeah, it's a great name. Let me tell you, that's where I got the name. I was at the airline counter desk, taking a flight to someplace. I fly a lot, and the stewardess had a name badge that said Saffron Lamb, Lam, and I said, "That's a great name."
That is great. Yeah. What's
So
the
Yeah.
I,
name
s-
of the sequel
I hope
nowadays?
she doesn't see this because I
What's
stole her name.
what's the name of your book again? Your sequel.
Oh, I haven't really named it. I'm thinking of calling it because I started actually. I went from the Anaheim thing. I started out in the Han Dynasty, and thinking of calling it the Jade Burial Suit of Emperor Wu. And then this morning I was thinking maybe that's a little long. Maybe I should call it the Emperor's Jade Suit. But in the Han Dynasty, Emperor Wu was buried in this jade suit, like when they put him in the tomb.
Wow.
It's made of all these little squares of jade that's sewn together with gold wire. And there's about 5 or 6 of these in the world. Really, they're very valuable. So I started out in the Han Dynasty, and then I go to the 1920s, and it's stolen by grave robbers,
Of
and then
course.
it's to Burma
Oh,
and
this is gonna
whatever,
be a good one.
and then it goes on and ends up in contemporary Hong Kong,
I see.
missing.
There's a theme here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Great.
followed the suit through
How
this.
far away are you? Do you think from getting it down where you
Oh,
like it?
that I got to about 89,000 words, and now I'm back at the beginning, and I've polished, so I call it polishing, going back and polishing and writing
Hmm.
in some pairings. And So I'm at chapter 13 right now. That is an interesting question for you as an author, Russ, because what I've decided to do in this book, which I think has added another dimension, is I'm naming my chapters. Actually, because I thought about that. I looked in other, Stephen King or whatever, and they just go chapter 1, chapter 2,
Right, right.
Dan Brown, chapter 1, chapter. But now I'm actually naming them,
Well,
and I
that's
feel like there's another dimension.
that's interesting. You like that idea, Jenny?
I do like that idea because it gives the reader something else to think about, and
Yeah, it helps with the flow, I bet.
yeah, it does. It's hard to do that
It
though.
does,
I think
because
the hardest thing for an author to do is actually to write a good, synopsis or to name the chapters to extract that little bit of what is this really about. That's really hard. It's harder
yeah,
than
like
writing the book.
I went from the Han Dynasty to 1920s. I called that chapter 1920. So the reader gets a clue all of a sudden. Oh, okay, we're in 1920, and then going down, and then all of a sudden, like I'm in Hong Kong and I jump to Myanmar. I call that chapter Myanmar. So they get a clue kind of before they enter the chapter of where it's going. It's not so much a shock of like jumping into cold water. Hey, what are we doing in Myanmar?
So, guys, we're running out of time here. Is there anything that I, should ask you, or you want to ask each other real quick, so we can?
Well, I just want to get to Hong Kong as soon as I can at this point. I honestly, I just love it.
I got a spare bedroom. My daughter went back to America. Got a spare bedroom. Welcome anytime. You too, Jenny.
I would
love to. Yeah.
When my wife was working, she was down to the Mandarin, and I'd go into the bar, and of course I'd get a cigar, and they would light the cigar for me, and I'd have a little cocktail. I'd wait for and these beautiful people were all over the place, and I think, man, this is the closest James Bond you can ever get.
Russ, I love that you were about to say women, but you changed it to people.
You know me too well.
I do.
Now, Russ, there's lots of there's so many little alleyways. Literally, you could go to a different place every day of your life, and you'd never catch them all.
Okay, well, guys, this has just been great to have you here together, and I love the conversation. Very lively and interesting. I'm sure lots of people will enjoy that repartee. And to find the books, I know that Russ is russbubas.com. And yours is davidharrislang-books.com. And I know the books are on Amazon, so I hope everyone will check you guys out. And thanks again.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. David.
Bye-bye.
Great.
Hey everyone, it's Malka from Contemporary Books, back for another episode of The Author Connection. On this episode, I'm really excited to talk about one of the many books I read last week. I always say that the mark of a good book is when you can't seem to forget about it long after you finished it. That book for me is Stone Angels by Michael Hartigan. This book is a lyrical and thoroughly engrossing story of Augustine Shaw. He is a young man who reflects on the last few years of his life in college, which includes his experience with first love, friendships gone awry, and the unintended consequences that occur when both aspects of his life overlap one another. The story opens up with Augustine, who goes by the nickname Shaw, on the road back from a drunken getaway with 3 of his college friends. They are all about to graduate, and Shaw is about to be catapulted into adulthood. In the dead of the night, with his car nearly out of gas, he stops to refuel at a gas station, and is there on the wall he finds written, "Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank and leave." And so begins his journey towards self-redemption and forgiveness. He utilizes the long, solitary journey on the road back home to reflect on the last few years of his life that no doubt.
This is Jenny Hudson. Thanks for coming to the Author Connection, and we hope we see you next time.